Welcome to Designing Your Western. This will be a fast-paced, hands-on presentation. And of course, you are watching this virtually, so we'll make some concessions for that. But this is also going to build on your Clifton strengths. And it's going to allow you to reflect on what you would like to do during your time here at Western, and also to give you some ideas about how to pursue these experiences and get the most out of your time here at Western. So the purpose of the session is really to provide space for you to reflect on what you want to do at Western and giving you some ideas for things you could do outside of the classroom. And we really want you to get the most you can out of your time here. So this Design Your Western is really set up to help you with that. But before we begin, I would like to play a quick video for you.
In music, though, one doesn't make the end of a composition the point of the composition. If that was so, the best conductors would be those who played fastest. And there would be composers who wrote only finales. People go to a concert just to hear one crashing chord, because that's the end. Now, but we don't see that as something brought by our education into our everyday conduct. We've got a system of schooling which gives a completely different impression. It's all graded. And what we do is we put the child into the corridor of this grade system with a kind of, come on, kitty, kitty, kitty. And yeah, you go to kindergarten, you know, and that's a great thing because when you finish that, you'll get into first grade. And then, come on, first grade leads to second grade, and so on, and then you get out of grade school, you've got high school, and it's revving up, the thing is coming. Then you're going to go to college, and by Jove, then you get into graduate school, and when you're through with graduate school, you go out to join the world. And then you get into some racket where you're selling insurance, and they've got that quota to make, and you're going to make that, and all the time, the thing is coming. It's coming, it's coming, that great thing, the success you're working for. Then when you wake up one day about 40 years old, you say, my God, I've arrived. I'm there. And you don't feel very different from what you always felt. And there's a slight letdown because you feel there's a hoax. And there was a hoax, a dreadful hoax. They made you miss everything. We thought of life by analogy with a journey, with a pilgrimage, which had a serious purpose at the end, and the thing was to get to that end, success or whatever it is, or maybe heaven after you're dead. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing or to dance while the music was being played.
So, what did you think of that video, and what's the message that's being sent with that? So life is music. It's a dance. Alan Watts was a philosopher, and the message of this video is that life is not a journey that only has significance at its end or completion. It's also about not rushing from one experience to the next until we reach the final destination, but really, a life is more like a dance and a composition, wherein the richness and meaning can be found through the act of composition itself, through the act of living. So we would encourage you to think of your Western experience this way, as a rich and meaningful experience that is to be enjoyed moment to moment, rather than rush through simply to get to the end, walking across the stage on Convocation Day. So the other way to enjoy your Western experience, and you might take a different approach, is to get the most out of that is trying to do everything. This is, a little bit of FOMO here. You're being driven by a fear of missing out. And so you may try to cram as much as you can into your Western experience by joining as many clubs as you can, intramurals, extracurricular activities, etc. And while we encourage you to engage in those sorts of things, look at this slide and think about the fact that You know, there are 400 programs, there are 252 first-year courses, there are 221 different clubs, etc., etc. Friends to be made, 30,235 friends to be made in 4 years, but there's only one you. So the message here is to be selective, to build on your strengths, and to really choose carefully. But don't shy away from making some of these choices. Don't shy away from doing some of these things, but you really want to be selective. So the wonderful thing about the Western experience is that you don't just get to live it, but you also get to design it. And so you will be the author of it so that it fits and serves your interests. And honestly though, how do you do this when there are so many roads to go down? And so we're going to introduce you to a couple of things to help you design your Western experience. And I want to introduce you to the concept of life design, or designing your experience. And so this comes from Stanford, and there are two individuals who are designers, Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, and they developed a framework for looking at career, looking at life design, and helping people plan forward. So we want to introduce a few of these principles to you in this workshop. And so how are you going to go about this? How are you going to go about designing an experience that is the right fit for you? First, though, we're going to stop and have some fun. And so this is an exercise. It's called the Paper Tower Challenge. And you're going to be encouraged to get some material together, about 5 pieces of paper. There's not going to be any tape, no scissors, no glue, and you're going to be asked to do something with this paper. So gather that material together. What you're going to do, and of course you're competing with yourself because you're watching this. Maybe you're watching this with a couple of other friends though, and so you could all participate. And so the tallest tower wins. And so what you need to do is, from one sheet of paper, build the tallest tower that is freestanding. You can't hold it up. There is no glue, there's no tape, nothing like that. And see if you can get one that looks like it might be the tallest tower. So take about 8 minutes to do that now, and have some fun with this exercise. Okay, so you finished the Paper Tower Challenge. How was that for you? How many towers did you build? What was the strategies that you used? I've seen people use lots of different strategies in this exercise, in the building of this tower. And so you've just had a chance to experiment a little bit. So let's talk a little bit more about this. Paper Tower Challenge is a simplified version of a more widely used and slightly more complex exercise called the Marshmallow Challenge. And the subject in the Marshmallow Challenge is to build a structure using spaghetti, string, and tape that suspends a single marshmallow as far as possible above the table on which it sits. So participants are usually given 15 to 18 minutes to build, and this exercise has been completed many times by many different groups, and therefore there is data available on who performs well and who performs poorly in the Marshmallow Challenge. I know that you may have done this challenge before in some kind of team building exercise. I know I have certainly done it myself in the past. So which group would you think would do the most poorly in this exercise, in the Marshmallow Challenge? So the group that performs consistently poorly in the Marshmallow Challenge are recent business school graduates, which I'm sure that they're not happy to hear that, but there's some reasoning for that. Now, if you think about who did the most poorly, who do you think has done the best? What group does the best in this challenge? So those that perform consistently well in the Marshmallow Challenge are recent kindergarten school graduates. So, might be a little bit surprising, but there are very specific reasons for this. So, let's make the point here, the difference between the two. One of the reasons for the difference is that the business school students and the kindergartners do things differently with the time that they have. So that 15 to 18 minutes. So business school students typically take just one measurement, which they do at the very end. Business school students spend a lot of time planning and orienting themselves to the problem. So there's lots of rumination about the difficulty, about the problem. Detailed planning is great when you have the information about the thing you're planning, but how many of us would know just exactly how strong the spaghetti would be, how heavy the marshmallow is, or just how sticky our tape would be? Probably no one. So the business school students are functioning without a lot of information. Now, the kindergartners. They take an average of 5 measurements, and they start right away. So that means that while many groups are still planning or orienting themselves, the kindergartners have already started to gather information. Because kindergartners experiment with the marshmallow, the spaghetti, and the tape, they have the information and they try things. And so at this point, they're in a much better position to complete the challenge because they have more information than the MBAs do. And what we see is that the kids are actually engaged in a process of prototyping and refining. So one of the takeaways here is that to be able to plan effectively, we need to have data and info. But in cases like this where we don't have the information, we can gather the data by building our way forward. And this leads us to one of those design principles, one of those design ideas, which is prototyping. So let me introduce you to this word. And this may not be an unfamiliar word to some of you, but to others it might be. So prototyping is about a mock-up. It's about building to test a concept, to unearth assumptions, get feedback. Why prototype? Why not just go at it and just try it? Fundamentally, this is about building our way forward. Given that you have a limited number of resources to spend, you want to spend them wisely. So by prototyping, you're able to expend a small number of resources to learn a lot. Prototyping exposes assumptions. You thought something was going to be one way, and it turns out it isn't. So it's about learning and maximizing your learning with minimum investment. So a good prototype is cheap to construct, it's fast to implement, and it's easy and accessible. If you think about Apple and the first computers and iPhones and all of those sorts of things, there were lots of cheap prototypes before there was actually a commitment to building something that was going to cost more. And so this then is a concept that I want you to take away with you and think about. And this fits and applies very nicely to designing your Western. Because you can prototype your life experiences and your student experiences. So try things. Things are out there for you to try. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy to try things. Try new things. So parallel experiences, internships and co-ops, job shadowing. Try job shadowing for a day. Reach out on LinkedIn and speak with people. Prototype conversations, learning from others, informational interviewing. All of these things are prototyping experiences, and this is a great way for you to get the most out of your time at Western and to really start to learn what direction you might head once you're finished your degree. So what are some of the takeaways for prototyping? Learn by doing. Don't be afraid of that. When you have no data, try something. You're not going to know unless you try it out. Avoid analysis paralysis. Any of you that, when writing a paper, you spend all of your time researching and it's just a way of avoiding trying the actual writing of the paper, that's the analysis paralysis. You want to have a bias toward action. That's a designer's mindset, a bias toward action, a bias toward doing things. Fail early to succeed often. No, we're not suggesting that you flunk out of your courses, but you're not going to be successful at everything you try. You might apply for a position as a student leader and those sorts of things. You might not get it the first time. That's okay. You try again. That's what prototyping is about. And prototype life experiences. So then in terms of Western, what can you do? In a few minutes, we're going to do another exercise, but let's have a look at some of the things you can do at Western. So there's a whole wide range of activities. There's University Student Council, there's USC clubs or recreational sports clubs. You can see there are all kinds of opportunities for you to be involved. Intramural, international learning opportunities when these sorts of things open up again. So lots of ideas here for activities that you can be engaged in. So don't be afraid to try that. You saw that long list before. Be selective, build on your strengths, think about these things. And then you have a Western co-curricular record. And so co-curricular and extracurricular, co-curricular is more of a personal and professional skills building, and extracurricular is meant to be social and recreational. We need both, right? You want to be doing both. So your co-curricular record is a tool that allows you to gain recognition and for these things and to track these experiences that you have outside of the classroom. And so these experiences help students gain transferable skills while being involved in the Western community, the London community, and of course the global community. So all of these things are important, and you'll want to track all of these things in terms of building your resume for the future. All right, putting it all together. So we're going to pull together Clifton Strengths and the life design. So hopefully you've watched the Clifton Strengths piece first and you've done your Clifton Strengths. And what we want you to do is to bring these things together. So my 3 Westerns. So what you're going to need is a sheet of paper, and on that sheet of paper, just mark 3 equal-sized columns across the paper. Simple as that. That's all you need. Sheet of paper and a pen. And you're going to spend some time developing some visions of your 3 approaches to Western moving forward. So this is certainly a life design principle that we're talking about here. Excuse me. And so get yourself set, get your piece of paper, mark it out, and I would say that you would want to spend, about a good 20 minutes on this. So take your time, be reflective, think about it. So here we go. The very first one, mark the first one as Vision 1. So this is your first column. So in this column, what we want you to do is write down, either write words down, draw pictures, however you want to envision that, where you are at during this time, at this moment. So the story of your Western experience. What is your current major? What is your career goal? What kinds of clubs or extracurriculars are you going to be involved in, or do you want to be involved in? Activities and interests that you might be pursuing. You could even put where you're going to be living in here. Maybe you're in residence, maybe you're off campus. All of those things can go into this Vision 1. This is your plan for today. If you have sticky notes, you can use sticky notes. However you want to do this, this is your plan. Fill it out as best you can for your plan right now, moving forward today. So spend a good 5-8 minutes on that. Okay, for your vision 2, this is an alternate plan. I always like to say, you know, envision that your first plan just blew up. You can't do the major that you were going to pursue. It's gone. It doesn't matter why, it's just no longer an option. Maybe your interests have changed, for whatever reason. So what are you going to do now if you're no longer going to do the things that you plan to do in Vision 1? Sometimes people think of this as Plan B. I like to think of it just as maybe the alternate plan, but what does that look like? So map that out. The same as your first vision, do this alternate plan in the second column. Same idea, write words in there, pictures, whatever it might be. Vision 3 is changing the game. And so finally, you're going to envision your third Western. So now allow yourself to just let go, right? Let go of as many internal and external constraints as you can or that you want to. There are no family pressures, no status, no fears about status, no financial constraints, no gender norms, nothing. The gloves are off. You can do whatever you want. This is the dream in many ways. And so what does that look like for you? What would you do with your life or your career? It might not even be at Western, and that's okay. This is your plan. So this is vision number 3. Okay, hopefully you've spent a good 15, 20 minutes or so on that, mapping out your 3 visions. Feel free to go back to either the first few slides and review what the instructions were again. And so, of course, you're doing this, maybe you're doing, as I said, maybe you're doing this with a couple of friends, but share your ideas for your 3 Westerns with other people. Talk to your parents, talk to your friends, talk to whoever you feel comfortable talking to about these things. Were there any surprises coming out of your alternate or your game-changing plan, things that excited you, things that you might want to pursue that you hadn't thought about? How about your strengths? How did they contribute to your plan? And think about your 5 strengths from Clifton Strengths in terms of planning. Offer feedback. That's a little difficult. Ask for feedback though on your plans when you're sharing them with people. So I hope that this exercise has helped you to think more about what you might do moving forward as you come into Western, and certainly the goal of this designing your Western is really to get you thinking about these things in a more critical way. So thank you for watching this video. Thank you for taking the time, and we look forward to seeing you here on campus in September. All the best.